The day passes like any other. The hours move normally. Nothing in them registers urgency or anticipation. They don't check schedules. They don't count down to kickoff. They don't feel the pull of game day energy. When others talk about this weekend's game, it lands like background information. Interesting to them in the way weather forecasts are. Useful for context, not something that stirs emotion. If a television is playing football, they notice the noise first. The crowd roar, the commentator's cadence, the sudden spikes in volume. They may glance at the screen briefly, notice the movement, then return to what they were doing. The game doesn't hold them. They don't feel tension during close plays. They don't feel relief when a score happens. They don't feel disappointment when a team loses. Their body stays neutral. They don't lean forward. They don't clench. They don't track the clock. Time doesn't bend around the game for them. They might be in the same room as others watching, yet mentally elsewhere, reading something on their phone, thinking about something unrelated, waiting for the conversation to shift. When invited to watch, they often decline easily. Not defensively, not dismissively, just casually. They don't experience the decision as loss. They don't feel like they're opting out of something essential. They don't feel excluded from meaning. They simply don't feel drawn. If they do attend a watch party, they notice different things. The food, the social dynamics, the rhythm of conversation around the game. They may enjoy the gathering itself, but the screen remains secondary. Their attention drifts during long stretches of play. They re-engage only when conversation does. They don't build memory around seasons. They don't remember past championships vividly. They don't track rivalries. They don't recall statistics. Football does not organise their sense of time. Sundays feel like Sundays, not events. During major games, they often use the time differently. Running errands, working uninterrupted, reading, spending time quietly. They enjoy the absence of noise in other spaces. They don't announce their disinterest. They don't argue about it. They simply live around it. They are often aware, quietly, that this difference stands out. Because football is not treated like other preferences. It's treated like a default. And when someone doesn't share it, their neutrality becomes noticeable. From the outside, not watching football is rarely treated as a simple preference. It is usually interpreted. Because football functions as a shared cultural reference point, not participating in it is often seen as opting out of something communal. People assume it means someone doesn't enjoy group bonding, that they don't like shared excitement, that they're uninterested in collective moments. Silence during football conversations stands out. When others discuss games, scores, or players with ease, their lack of input becomes visible. Not loudly, just noticeably. They are asked questions meant to clarify the absence. You don't watch football? Not even your home team? How can you not be into it? The tone is often curious, sometimes incredulous, occasionally judgmental, as if interest were expected, as if disengagement required explanation. Not watching football is sometimes framed as social awkwardness, that the person doesn't know how to participate, that they feel uncomfortable in group settings, that they avoid common ground. Even when the person is socially capable and engaged elsewhere. In environments where football dominates social interaction, workplaces, family gatherings, friend groups, this difference can be magnified. Conversations pause when they can't contribute. Topics move forward without them. Shared jokes land without context. So their absence of interest is misread as absence of connection. There is also a subtle assumption of judgment, that not watching football means looking down on it, that choosing something else implies criticism, that neutrality hides disapproval, even when no such stance exists. Because football is emotionally charged, for many disinterest can feel personal, as if enthusiasm were being rejected. This leads to casual defensiveness from others. You don't know what you're missing. It's not just a game. You'd like it if you gave it a chance, as though exposure alone would create resonance, as though interest was something to be learned rather than felt. Their preference is also framed as limitation, that they're missing a key cultural experience, that they lack something everyone else shares, that they are outside a major social current, not watching football becomes a shorthand for being different, for being harder to relate to, for being not into what everyone else is into. This framing overlooks something important. Football is not just entertainment, it is a ritual, and rituals are powerful precisely because they are shared. So opting out of a ritual is rarely seen as neutral. It is interpreted as refusal, distance, or disconnection. But for the person not watching, none of that is happening internally. They are not resisting. They are not opting out intentionally. They are not making a statement. They simply do not feel the pull. And because that lack of pull is quiet and unannounced, others fill in the meaning for them. A meaning that often says more about how central football is culturally than about the person who never felt drawn to it in the first place. Not watching football is often not about disengagement. It is about where attention naturally settles. For some people, attention locks onto experiences that offer continuity rather than spectacle, depth rather than spikes, sustained focus rather than episodic excitement. Football is built around interruption, short bursts of intensity, stops and starts, emotional highs synchronized across large groups. For many, that rhythm is energizing. For others, it feels fragmented. Their nervous system does not organize meaning through sudden peaks. It organizes meaning through flow. They are more attuned to experiences that unfold gradually, that allow immersion without interruption, that don't reset emotional stakes every few minutes. So when they watch football, nothing clicks. Not because they don't understand it, not because they can't appreciate skill or strategy, but because the structure does not match how their attention works. Their mind does not attach to outcomes that reset repeatedly. Their emotions do not rise and fall with scores they never internalized. Their sense of presence does not deepen through collective tension. This is not indifference. It is mismatch. Interest is not chosen through logic. It emerges through resonance. And football for them does not resonate. Their engagement tends to be quieter. They may become absorbed in a single task for hours. They may enjoy uninterrupted conversation more than group excitement. They may find satisfaction in continuity rather than climax. Their nervous system prefers steadiness, predictable input, sustained attention, low interruption. Football disrupts that preference. The noise spikes, the energy surges, the focus shifts constantly. So their system stays neutral rather than activated. They are not bored in the usual sense. They are simply not captured. This difference often develops early. People learn over time what types of stimulation feel regulating and what types feel draining. Some bodies come alive in crowds, others come alive in quiet concentration. Some people connect through shared spectacle, others connect through parallel presence. Neither is more valid, but only one is culturally amplified. Football occupies a large cultural footprint, so when someone does not engage with it, the assumption is often that something is missing, when in reality, something else is present. Their attention is already invested elsewhere, in ideas, in work, in relationships that don't revolve around events, in activities that don't require synchronization with thousands of others. They do not need collective emotion to feel connected. They do not need rivalry to feel belonging. They do not need ritualized excitement to feel alive. They're comfortable existing alongside others, without sharing the same focal point, while others gather around a screen that they may feel most grounded doing something uninterrupted. This is not withdrawal from culture, it is selective engagement. They are not rejecting football, they are simply following the quiet logic of their own attention. And psychologically, that makes sense, because engagement is not universal. Belonging is not singular, and not every nervous system is designed to find meaning in the same rituals, no matter how loud or widespread those rituals become. Their absence from football is not a statement, it is alignment, a natural orientation toward what actually holds their focus. Without effort, without persuasion, without explanation. You don't need to make that absence understandable to anyone else. You don't need to explain why the games don't hold your attention. You don't need to justify how you spend those hours. Instead, You don't need to translate your interests into something more recognizable. Nothing is missing because you don't follow the season. Nothing is lacking because collective excitement doesn't move you. Nothing is wrong because your attention settles elsewhere. Your disengagement is not a rejection of people. It is alignment with what actually engages you. It is allowed that your sense of connection doesn't come from shared screens. It is allowed that ritualized excitement feels neutral to you. It is allowed that meaning arrives quietly, without spectacle. You're not disconnected because you don't watch. You are not boring because you don't care about scores. You are not outside culture because one tradition never resonated. You don't owe participation to prove openness. You don't owe enthusiasm to prove belonging. You don't owe explanation for what never felt meaningful. You are allowed to let others enjoy what they enjoy. You are allowed to step aside without commentary. You are allowed to spend your attention where it naturally rests, quietly, without defense, without performance, and nothing about who you are needs to align with a game to be valid.